Hello and welcome to another edition of Communication Connection. I'm your host, Terry Likes. We're thankful for you to joining us here on this program. We often focus on students and faculty as part of this program, but we're going to divert slightly and take a look at the career of one of our successful alums for the program. Marcus Hunter has worked in television for many years and joins us from Jackson today. Marcus, thank you so much for joining us here on Communication Connection, and welcome back to Mississippi State.
Hey, glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, they often say that television is the first draft of history, and you've now had a long career working in television news and in sports. So congratulations. We're going to talk about that, but let's back up a little bit first. Tell us about your early days and what brought you to Mississippi State in the first place.
I'm from Columbus, Mississippi, born and raised, which is not far from Starkville, Mississippi, about 25 minutes down the road. And I always grew up a big Mississippi State fan. Obviously, a fan of the football team, fan of the sports, and it was so close to home that I would often travel to Starkville just to, go check out campus and be near kind of the events that were going on there. And so, I had that love for Mississippi State in my heart early on, and so that kind of really pulled at me, and that's one of the big reasons I decided to go to Mississippi State. Also, when I started interning, when I was still in high school at the local TV station WCBI, one of the MSU professors, Karen Brown, she was the fill-in anchor there. So she would come over sometimes and anchor some of the newscasts. And I got to talking to her more and more about Mississippi State. And she really just kind of sold me on the school and the communications program there. And that was one of the big reasons I decided to go to Mississippi State.
Well, so you graduated in 2005. Tell us about a fond memory while you were here in Starkville.
Well, while I was in Starkville, there are so many great memories. I'll never forget the drill when I first got to campus before my freshman year started, and we had the drill. That was one of my best memories because it was the first time that I really felt like I was on campus and in a campus atmosphere. And so I was really excited about that, but also, the first day of just going to classes and seeing how everything worked and all the different students that were on campus. It was a great experience for me, but definitely can never forget the athletic events. I played football there some, but I also worked in TV, so I covered a lot of sporting events. So just going to the athletic events, just being around campus all together was such a great experience for me. It's hard for me to just break it down to just one thing, but I will say that just the overall experience, there are so many great memories from Mississippi State, just hanging out with my friends on campus, going to some of the campus or off-campus parties that they would have, so many great memories there at Mississippi State.
Well, you mentioned WCBI Television, which is in Columbus, the CBS affiliate. And for many who want to get into television, they start in smaller markets and work their way up. So for you, that was kind of a foothold into the industry, wasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely was. Having an opportunity to intern at WCBI when I was just 17 years old when I started, and then going from there to having that opportunity to work and get hired on as a production assistant while I was there. That was just kind of the icing on the cake because it really showed that, whatever I was doing while I was there was really, I was working hard. It was an internship, but I worked hard at that internship, and then they hired me on. And so them taking the leap of faith to hire me on really helped me. And then when I got to Mississippi State and started working there, as a student worker on the sideline show, which was an old sports show that we had, that really gave me the confidence because I had worked at WCBI. I had worked with a guy named Marshall Harris, who was also a Mississippi State student, and a guy named Ben Hart. And they've gone on to do some great things. Ben Hart is now a general manager at a Hearst station in Savannah, Georgia. Marshall is now a sports director at a TV station in Chicago. And those are the two guys that when I got to Mississippi State, they kind of took me under their wing because I worked with them at WCBI and really helped move me along and really helped my career.
Well, you mentioned Ben Hart. He's an upcoming guest on this program. So it's all about networking in the media industry, that's for sure. So you started at WCBI, and as many, we've talked about climbing that career ladder, or often, since you've worked in sports, I use the baseball analogy of starting at single A and double A and working your way up to triple A into the big leagues. So your next stop was in Memphis. That's a much bigger market and a big move for you, and I'm sure that was very exciting.
Yes, it was definitely exciting. And it came maybe about 6 months after I graduated from Mississippi State. And, it's not very often, well, it wasn't back then very often that you would have someone only a few months removed from college have an opportunity to work in a market like Memphis. But again, thanks to all of the help that I received while I was at WCBI and learning so much and also teaching myself so much, I was able to make that leap. And, going from a small town like Columbus, Mississippi, up to Memphis was a big leap for me. But I was ready for the challenge. Memphis had a professional basketball team, and I was excited about having an opportunity to cover the Memphis Grizzlies. That was when Memphis Tiger basketball, their college team, that's when it was really doing well. But I really think that because of my time covering SEC sports and also covering, big SEC events that really helped me. And what you're seeing right now is a photo of me playing basketball inside FedEx Forum. They would have a media game every year at the end of the season. And those were some of my, just best memories in Memphis, having an opportunity to go to FedEx Forum and watch the Memphis Grizzlies as they were going through their playoff run, the playoff runs that they had back in the, mid 2000s. And so that was a great experience altogether. And, like I was saying earlier, just having the atmosphere of SEC sports really allowed me to get there and not be starstruck, not really be in awe about all the fans and everything that was kind of going on around me. The biggest difference of working in Memphis to me was the commute. It just took longer to get everywhere and the amount of people. But all in all, it was a sports job, and I kind of just felt right at home in the people that I worked there. As a matter of fact, another Mississippi State alum, Kristen Talent, she was already there in Memphis working at the Fox station. When I got there, I had knew Kristen from her time interning at WCBI while I was still working there. And so just having that familiarity with someone there really put me at ease when I got that job.
So many years of working in Memphis television. What is it that brought you further south back down to Mississippi?
Well, we kind of talked a little bit about networking, and Ben Hart was the news director at the station that I'm currently at, WAPT in Jackson. And, Ben, he had always spoken to me about, Marcus, you're good at sports, but I think you can be good at news also. And Ben continued to try to get me to understand the importance of news, which I did understand. But while I was in Memphis, I started to do more news stories. Eventually, I became the weekend sports anchor and the weekday news reporter. So I started to get my foothold in the world of news there. And it was shortly after that Ben gave me a call, maybe after a couple of years of doing sports and news, and they had a morning news anchor opening at WAPT. I came down, I auditioned for the job, and thankfully I must have done well enough because they hired me on. And I've been here for 7 years, and I couldn't be happier with that decision to go from sports to news. Now, I do still miss sports, but I still do a little sports while I'm down here. Just last week, I was in Starkville for the super regional game, Mississippi State Notre Dame game 1. I've done some sideline reporting for the high school basketball and high school football championships. So I still have a foothold in sports, but I am a news person now, and I love doing news, and it's a part of who I am, and I just love to continue to grow in that aspect.
A lot of students tell me that why they want to get into television is because they want to be on television. Later, they often realize, as I'm sure you probably have, it's the chance to do something meaningful for the community. And you've been able to win many awards over the years, most notably from the Associated Press, for example, but also notably because of your coverage of the opioid crisis. That's certainly something that has to have been rewarding and meaningful for you.
Absolutely. We know how the opioid crisis was and is still continuing to impact this country in such a large way. And, I was never person that actually wanted to be in front of the camera. I wanted to be behind the camera when I initially started, but then I started doing some work in front of the camera, and I realized that I kind of had I was pretty decent at it. And, and after realizing that, it was more about not myself and my face, because I don't really care about all of that. I cared about the stories that I'm telling. Even when I would do sports stories, telling those sports stories and news stories, telling people's stories and getting those stories out there, those stories that impact people and also impact where we're from, and also going out and, being someone who can talk to kids. And, I always say whenever I go out and I do a speaking engagement, as a matter of fact, I did a speaking engagement just this past Wednesday. And I always say, if there's just one student that can take something from what I say, then I have done my job. Because I know how children can be. Not everyone's going to pay attention. But if there's just one person that can take something from what I do and from what I say, then I feel like it's all been worth it. Because at some point, I was that young kid. And, we had a news anchor come to our television station. And I took something from that conversation, and that made me want to get into the news business to go after working behind the scenes. But like I said, then I kind of got into doing things in front of the camera, which I'm definitely happy that I made that transition and made that move. And I'm happy to be able to tell people some stories, because everyone has a story to tell, but not everyone is able to get their story out there. And if I can be a voice for someone, whether in their best times or in their worst times, if I can be a voice for someone, then I'm all for doing that. And so so that's why I just work so hard on, telling those particular types of stories.
Well, you mentioned making an impact with students, and in our final minute here, you've been teaching and have taught at Hines Community College. So that has to have been a new challenge for you, but also a way to give something back.
Absolutely. I love to teach. I'm always trying to teach. I'm always trying to educate. And my 17-year-old daughter, she'll tell the same thing. I'm always trying to teach her something. And sometimes I'm getting her nervous about that. But that's just how I am. I learned how to shoot video. I learned how to edit. I learned how to download satellite feeds when we used to do that back in the day. And if I can give that knowledge that I've learned to someone else, and they can use that in their future, then it just makes everything that I've done all worth it. Because, as I was growing up, my stepdad always told me, people can take a lot of things away from you, but they cannot take away what you know. They cannot take away your knowledge and what you've learned. And even if you have a job and something happens where that station closes, they bring in new management, or you just move on to choose something else, as long as you have a skill set and things that you can do, then you can always be employed. You can always do something you love, especially if you love shooting video and you love editing, then that's something that you can always do, because it is a skill that you can take with you. And so that's why I love to teach. I want to give information that I have out to other people in order to somehow help their lives and make them better, and make their futures brighter as far as what they're trying to do.
Well, Marcus Hunter, thank you so very much for joining us here on Communication Connection, for sharing your story. It's an important one. The television field is certainly very exciting, and also the teaching field, as I know I'm certainly aware, can be quite gratifying. So thank you so much for joining us here on Communication Connection. We'll be watching all of your success and future success, and welcome you back to campus anytime. And we thank you for watching here on Communication Connection. Please join us next time.